All right, the time is 5:30, so I will call to order the Committee of the Whole for August 25th, 2025. Clerk Boat, could you please read the roll?
Councilmember Pelli-Vanoglu?
Present.
Councilmember Jackson?
Present.
Councilmember Garza?
Here.
Councilmember Hussein?
Here.
Councilmember Cost?
Here.
Councilmember Carter?
Here.
Councilmember Brown?
Present.
Councilmember Spatafor?
Present.
All members present.
Okay, next we have the minutes. Vice President Carter.
I make a motion to approve the August 11th minutes as presented.
Okay, we have a proper motion in place. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, next we are on to public comment on agenda items. If there's anyone here from the public that wishes to speak, now is your opportunity. Please come up to the podium, and if you could share your name for the record.
Loretta Stanaway. You have on your agenda today the approval of the sale of a lot adjacent to North Cemetery, and I would like to talk about that today. In your documents, in the packet, it says VMG canceled before the closing date. That is accurate. They canceled one day before the closing date, but they canceled because there was an extensive delay in setting the closing date. It had been 2 years or more since the public had passed the vote on that. In the interim, over those 2 years, they experienced three thefts of property from their building site in the excess of $10,000 worth of materials, none of which of those thefts were solved by LPD, and all of which meant insurance claims, which then meant increased premiums. Also, code compliance jumped in and told them that they would have to build 2 retaining walls, which they previously were not told they would have to do. So they canceled the sale. The Friends of Lansing's Historic Cemeteries pushed and assured that all improvements promised to the voters were made regardless. A new entry sign, new narrative sign, site map, ground penetrating radar survey, solar lights, and trail cameras all got put in. And that was because we pushed, and then there was a new bid because I pushed to talk to Mr. Garcia and ask if he would consider rebidding. So we trust that the improvement funds that were taken, or we trust that the funds for the improvements were taken from the general fund or park millage and not used to falsify and inflate the cemetery subsidy. These bureaucratic failures resulted in a loss of $5,500 to the cemetery over the original price versus the second price. Thank you.
Do you have anyone else from the public? Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to item 5, discussion action. The first one up is going to be B, a resolution for polling place early voting at the Lansing election office, 701 West Jolly Road. We've got Chris here to tell us all about it.
All right.
Make sure your green light's on. You've done that before.
Once or
Thank you,
twice.
sir. Yeah.
Good afternoon, and thank you for taking up this topic. So as I think you're aware, we will be moving our election unit out of the Rio School and into our new location at 701 West Jolly. The renovations are being completed, so we will be ready for early voting, which will start Saturday, October 25th with our trunk or treat event there at Jolly Road. So just want to get that added as an early voting location so that we are on the up and up with the legalities. And I believe you have the second version that I sent in front of you. After a year of being a polling place, did not like being a polling place, and so they have asked us not to use their location again. So this, what is before you is a temporary move of those voters to Parker Memorial Baptist Church. And then there's a couple of other locations that I want to work with and see if that will work out better as a long-term solution. So this will get us through this year, and then I'll be back at a future time for a more permanent polling place for those voters.
And Clerk Swoop, the Parker Memorial Baptist Church, do you know what the address is on that?
Off the top of my head, I don't.
Okay.
It's on Kavanaugh Road, just west of Aurelius. And it is an existing polling place. We use that.
Okay, it is an existing, great.
Yeah, we have a couple, we have 3 precincts that already vote there.
1902 East Kavanaugh, just want to throw that out there on the record. Okay. Do we have any questions for the clerk? Councilmember Garza.
Thank you, Council President. Thanks for being here tonight. Clerk Swope, moving forward after this November 4th election, will that election unit be a polling place as well?
Not likely. It'll be an early voting site, but kind of like the Rio Elementary School, because we have absentee voter processing and same-day voter registration and all kinds of things that probably will not be a good place for an election day polling place.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions? I do not see any, so we want to thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Vice President Carter.
Yes, I make a motion for the resolution polling place early voting at the Lansing Elections Office, Leo, at 701 West Jolly Road.
Okay, proper motion in place. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. All right. Next, we are going to move on to item C, a voter-approved sale of city property, portion of the North Cemetery. I believe we have Emily Stevens here for this. Good evening.
Yep, so this is just that portion of north that was voted
Is your microphone on?
Well, there, now it's greener. Thank you, sorry about that. So voters voted to sell this portion of land August 2nd, 2022. And so we did have almost a sale, and then it was pulled out, and so now we have it again. And so we're just looking for approval for it to be sold to VMG Construction for $3,000.
Okay, do we have questions? Okay, I guess no questions. I'm going to ask the question. So the looks like the appraisal that we have on this says $8,000, and this is the same company that originally decrease.
It's just what was offered at this time. We put out an RFP. We received this bid for $3,000, and we received another one for $1,100. So this is the highest.
Is it just going to stay forested?
We do not know their plans. We do know that if anything comes up, they'd have to go to code to change it from that.
Councilmember Garza.
Thank you, Council President. I just have a follow-up. I remember the discussion back a year or two ago when this happened. VMG is the one that purchased the property adjacent to the west of it, and they were originally going to purchase the other portion that led up to the North Cemetery to the east. And they were talking about potentially putting some either play equipment or something for the multi-unit structure that they built just to the west of that. So I'm not sure if that's still in the plan, but that was the original plan.
All right, thank you. Is there any further discussion? I don't see any. Well, thank you for being here.
Sure.
And Vice President Carter.
Yes, I'll make a motion for the resolution of the voter-approved sale of city property portion of North Cemetery.
Okay, we have a proper motion in place. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose? Oppose. Next, we are on to item D, amending Chapter 210 to add Section 210.06, City Council attendance. And I believe we have Councilmember Pelivanoglu.
Thank you, President Cost. As we have discussed this proposed ordinance previously, this ordinance was drafted in order to put forward definitions of meeting absence, excused absences, put parameters around attendance at council meetings and committee meetings, which we are all required to attend as part of this role. But essentially, it was noted that previously there was nothing in writing to really guide what an excused absence means versus an absence. I have likened this in the past to anyone who has a day job, and including our city employees. We have to call in to work, and we have certain parameters around that. And so these are simply setting parameters around city council attendance for regular council meetings and committee meetings. It does have a scale of penalties for absences that are outlined for council and for committee meetings. And happy to move and/or take any questions on that.
Okay. Do we have any questions? Vice President Carter.
Thank you, President Cost. Can you identify in detail when it says rules of council for a reason acceptable to the council, which may include but not limited to, and then it has a series of areas. So with this, the excused absent, is this going to be on the basis of the council body as a whole or council leadership? If you can just elaborate.
Correct. So currently, the way we request excused absences would not change. Those decision-making responsibilities continue to lie with council leadership the way they currently are. This simply outlines the way in which we can request an excused absence. For instance, if I know that I will be traveling for work, or if I am ill, according to this document, I would request an excused absence no later than 1 hour prior to that upcoming meeting, which seems fairly reasonable. We tried to put in some reasonable parameters there. And it does have an exception. For instance, if there were a health issue or a safety issue, if I'm driving to a committee meeting and happen to be in an auto accident or something of that nature, then certainly leadership could consider that when they consider an excused absence if it falls within that 1 hour time frame.
Thank you. And then that still applies for confidentiality too. So we are divulging our personal information to council leadership. So would that stay within the same parameters for confidentiality?
Correct. I don't believe there is any change there for requesting an excused absence and who is privy to that information and the reasons why we would request the excused absence.
Okay, thank you. And then another question for the first absence, a written warning is provided by the city council office manager, which is different from the first absence under a council meeting is provided by the city clerk. Is there a reason for the difference?
I believe because it's the, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the record keeper for each of those meetings, and that's designated as such, the written communications for absence would come from each recording secretary responsible for those meetings.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And is there a reason why this does not include any other outside duties such as the assigned board and committees, besides just the council meetings and the committee meetings?
So it's my understanding that the records we have kept in the past and we continue to keep only pertain to our assigned internal committee meetings and council and committee of the whole. That I'm aware of, we don't have a platform that keeps all of our attendance records for all of our outside appointed committee meetings. And so that would be the reason that those are not included here.
Has it been addressed to potentially include that moving forward since we're making the changes currently in the ordinance?
I haven't heard that suggestion yet. I'm certainly open to any conversation or suggestions from any of the colleagues up here.
I would just make that suggestion just because, I mean, all of this information is extremely important, all of the meetings and the duties that we do as an elected official. So I would think that our outside board of committees also impact our city as a whole as well. So I think that would be something that I would like to see if we're making the changes to the ordinance. Thank you so much.
If I may, I think one of the reasons why it's not included is this is focused on attendance records that we hold here that, under our charter were given, so these are the roles that we're supposed to do. The outside boards or commissions are not technically required per the charter. So that's the focus on this document. Councilmember Spatafor.
Well, I'll note too, I appreciate the spirit of the question. There's a lot of commissions and outside liaison positions we hold that are liaison positions. We're not actual members of the board, and our attendance is not reflected in any official way in a lot of those cases. I'll give an example, the Airport Authority Board. I'm not an official member of that board, but a liaison, and my attendance is never reflected in the notes.
I just wanted to, the reason why I added that piece is just because because it doesn't come into play that the council president also determines the committees, who's assigned, and also outside boards. So I just said thought about in lieu of full transparency, it would be befitting to have it where publicly individuals know too, because those outside boards, including the airport and Capital Area Michigan Works, those are all committees that we are the liaison, we represent and have to cascade that information out, especially because I believe this year we're reporting out off of those outside boards as well. So I just figured just to keep some consistency, but that would just be my thoughts.
Okay. Is there anything further? Sure. City Attorney.
Thank you. I just wanted to offer one point of clarification. And when listening to Councilmember Pelivanoglu explain the request, the response to the question for how absences or excused absences are requested, I just wanted to clarify. You described the process correctly administratively for yourselves, but the question of an excused absence at council is always a voted question to the whole body. And I just wanted to make sure that was clear for everyone, because it could have been ambiguously heard. That's all.
Thank you. Okay. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, President Cost. Yeah, I would concur with what Councilwoman Carter is saying to those points, because we are representing in our role as the council members in those different boards, we're representing the constituency as well as reporting out. So I would agree with what she said as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further comment? Okay. Councilmember Pelivanoglu.
Only to say, I don't disagree with you. I think our service on these outside, what we call outside appointed boards, such as Capital Area Michigan Works, Airport Authority, Tri-County Office on Aging, attendance and understanding what's happening in those roles is very important. I do agree with you completely on that. I do know that several of the boards and commissions I participated in do take attendance, and so maybe if there was an effort either through leadership, or I'm not exactly sure how that would work, but maybe engaging with some of the record keepers for our outside appointed boards and maybe adding that to our attendance platform could help with that transparency piece.
Thank you. And I don't disagree that we could be more inclusive, but I think a lot of that falls on Sherry right now. And I wouldn't want for her to have to personally hunt down each group, because they don't provide, they're not sending it to Sherry as an attendance record. And so you look at all the outside groups that we serve on, and that could be a lot of extra work. I don't know that, I think this is a good first start here, especially since we heard over and over again at the Charter Commission that, we can make an ordinance out of our attendance policy, and we have not. So I'm excited about this. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. I agree with the sentiments of Councilwoman Trini as well. because it's about the people. And of course, I think there could be some process or the clerk or someone or groups, they have staff at these different groups where they could provide that information to council. Not that we're trying to burden our office manager, but again, we represent 115,000 people, and the only way that we're able to be on these boards is because we are council members as the liaison, as Councilman Spatafor indicated. Thank you.
Vice President Carter.
You brought up a point with not putting too much of a workload on our office manager. However, in one of the portions, it is that stated that the city council office manager is to share or give the written warning. So there's a disciplinary action that the office manager is handling to council, which entail, to my understanding, this office manager actually reports to council. So would there be any type of conflict? And maybe this is an OCA question. And would there be particular training for an office manager who has not previously delivered these type of warnings?
Greg?
I don't know that any training would necessarily be required. I imagine that if there was going to be a written warning, there would be a request. We would draft a letter or a template or a form or something, and then that's what you would use.
I've got Councilmember Spatafor, followed by Brown.
Listen, I gotta say, I trust Sherry being able to write a warning letter.
Yep. I can't concur more. Councilmember Brown.
That brings up a point then that Councilwoman Carter brought up, is that, because we know Sherry's great, this is for 10 years down the road if she's not here, who writes up the office manager if they're, have conduct issues or, are not doing a good job?
I'll jump in front of this. You're straying over into a discussion about council management of council employees. There are council personnel rules that exist that govern and describe all of that. It was what was amended, I think, recently when you were posting a position, a couple of positions for hire to the community.
So I understand what you're saying. So what is that? Who does that then? Not that it's in there, I'm aware it's in there, but what is that procedure? Because if you do have, let's say, Jane Smith or John Smith or whoever as the office manager saying, here, we're not agreeing with this, I'm gonna discipline you without the authority, and then, it could come back that 4 or 5 council members say, well, great, let's write that person up too. It's putting the employee in a position that is not comfortable.
Without getting into too much, I'll answer the one question. I know that the council personnel rules put most of that management into the hands of the council president, or if the council president delegates or is absent, the council vice president, in terms of managing the office staff. And that would include if there were complaints about the office staff member not doing their job.
So if the council president is absent, then they're writing up the council president, and then the council president could be retaliatory if it wasn't, the people sitting up here today. That's a real thing, so.
We are now, you're asking a lot of questions about hypotheticals, and it is, I can give you answers, but we can continue down this path for a long time. And also, I just have to say, as the attorney at a public meeting, I don't really want to get into forecasting what's going to happen in a legal scenario if somebody's retaliating against an employee who did a thing. And I understand that may not be totally satisfying, but I will remove myself from the conversation at this point and let the body go back to deliberating the matter in front of it.
Thank you. And so with that being said, that's why I'm saying it could be a potential conflict or a sticky situation based on what the attorney said and did not say as well. So I don't know. That's just a comment to that point. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Councilmember Spatafor, did you have your hand up? No. Okay. Any further comments? Councilmember Hussein.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate the concerns, and so I certainly don't want to devalue those. I do support this as written. I think the way that it's written, I think for the first time, it's a little scary, frankly, that councils have served, iterations of council have served for the past several decades without something such as this, with no certainty for the president, no certainty for the chair, no certainty for council staff, no certainty for respective council members. I know I've been in a position, because there's no guidance in asking for excused absence and not really knowing what is, what would be an appropriate reason for an excused absence. I've been in the position of being a chair or president present, being asked to excuse in absence where maybe there was no information provided, and it put me in a kind of a position where, because there was nothing to lean back on, now I'm having to make kind of a subjective decision. I don't want to do that, right, as a leader of this body. Beyond that, or any respective committee, sorry. Beyond that, I would have a really difficult time including somebody that does attend my outside boards and whatever you want to call other responsibilities, other appointments. I would have a hard time passing an ordinance that would in some way bind an outside organization to, as an example, providing information. They all have their own bylaws. They all, have their own framework in terms of how folks are asking for excused absences and how they're being granted excused absences. They have or at least have the ability to write into those bylaws penalties for not being present. Again, I think that would be almost unprecedented if we passed an ordinance that now is binding them to doing something that we want them to do or to provide information that we want them to provide. So I think this is a great, as Council President Cost said, a great first start. And I think, again, it gives us a framework that it's quite appalling that we've never had. And I think why, I think back to looking over attendance probably the last maybe 15 to 20 years that we have on record. And there are some, sorry, my voice is abandoning me, but I look back and I think, wow, how in the world, right, did that body or that committee, or how did they even get work done with some of that attendance? And so I think it just creates accountability, transparency, and I think certainty for us. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown.
I absolutely agree, Councilman Hussein, as well, with all of your points. And I wasn't inferring that we, make, something, as the other council people have said, where they're bound to it, but at least have a pathway for it to be available. And then what I was specifically talking about is, I think, line 6 on page 3, regarding the office manager. I'm just simply saying, could it be the president or the leadership of council, given the written notice or something that wouldn't put the staff of the council in that position based on what could happen. And of course, we all know we work very well together up here, but if Sherry's not here in 10 years, we're not here in 10 years, there could be a different situation. So thank you.
All right. Vice President Carter.
Thank you for the conversation that we've had so far. By any means, I'm not stating that we do not have any accountability or transparency. I am just asking, and with hope, that in the future, that with this amendment of this ordinance, that it is uplifted with integrity, and that individuals don't use this as a weapon, but more so as to keep structure to this dais. And so with that, I will make a motion to have the ordinance amending Chapter 210 and add Section 210.06, City Council attendance.
Okay, we have a proper motion in place. Is there any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose? Passes unanimously. Next, we are on to item 6, which is an LEDC, item E, LEDC presentation on development incentives, and we have Director Chris Klein here. I asked Chris to come in because I think the public and heck me could benefit from hearing some of the incentives that we have and trying to better understand them. So Chris was kind enough to put a presentation together that's in your packet, and is here to speak on it as well. And thank you for coming back. I know that we ran out of time 2 weeks ago, so it's very appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, Council, and thank you, President Cost, for the invite. Always appreciate the opportunity to come speak with you and discuss our programs, how they work, answer your questions. I did prepare kind of a summary of those, but it is very much a summary, so it doesn't do a very deep dive, but it gives some examples. And so I believe, if we can bring up the slides here. Oh. support that investment by decreasing the tax burden, and that can either help with cash flow for a project to help pay debt service. In some cases, those could be monetized to help bring additional financing to the project up front to make the project work. And then what are tax abatements and TIFs? So I've broken these out and provided very quick definitions here, but an abatement is a reduction or a freezing of real estate taxes on a property for a period of time to support the property rehabilitation and new development projects. And so this is based on the pre-improved value of the property in most cases. It's going to depend on the specific program. So it would freeze the value of the property, again, before the project takes place. And then there are certain programs that would have like a 50% of reduction in the taxes. But again, it's based on the program. And then tax increment financing. So these use future tax revenue increases on a property to reimburse certain costs of a new development or rehab. And so an important point here is that the full taxes on the improved property are paid. And so that's a requirement. And so you'll see this a lot with brownfield. And that's brownfield TIF is the most common tax increment financing tool that we utilize. And so this is based on the pre-improved value and then the post-completion value, and the difference in that taxable value is where those benefits can derive from. Maybe an easier way to look at it would be an abatement is like a coupon where you would have a certificate, a tax abatement, an exemption certificate approved and provided to a developer for a project, and so that would reduce that tax right up front, and so they would pay that reduced value or that frozen value at the time of the taxes. And then TIFs are more like a rebate. So you'd pay the full taxes, and then you'd send in the eligible costs that you're approved for, and once all of that is compiled, you'd get a reimbursement, a disbursement from that capture value. So hopefully that helps. Just thinking of a quick way to differentiate those. And so the types of projects that could qualify under these programs, really any, just because the programs are various, but ones that we've seen most common would be commercial use, and then industrial. We have seen a lot of multifamily residential, as well as mixed use, and then some single-family homes. There's a few projects that we've done previously that include single-family homes, and that's come back around as a possibility. So hope to see some of those soon. Then looking at the importance of TIFs and tax abatements. Let me know if the slides aren't keeping up here. So they would support new job creation, business expansion, housing, through brownfields that could reduce threats to public health by cleaning up contaminated properties. It would be activating blighted or vacant properties, underutilized properties as well. This would help offset increased construction costs and lower revenues that we have seen. So increased construction costs are all over, not really specific to Lansing, but just in general, the cost of construction has gone up considerably. And then lower revenues that we see comparative, rents here in Lansing compared to surrounding communities, locally in our region and even out in the state. And then we see increased taxes from investment that would not occur without these programs. So without the project taking place, using the assistance of the program, we wouldn't see some of the pass-through and the tax sharing that we see through, for example, brownfield. We wouldn't see new income in personal property taxes. Then also supporting public infrastructure improvements. This has become very important in a lot of the projects that we do, to include beautifying of the property itself or nearby properties, doing lighting, trail and sidewalk improvements, stormwater management, and riverfront improvements. So those are some examples that we've seen recently with projects and public infrastructure investments. Then getting into some common programs, I'll first tackle brownfield TIF, because that's probably the most common, and we've just had a few come before you in the last couple of months. So brownfield, what we've seen more traditionally with that program since that was approved back in 1996 is we have environmental and then non-environmental activities were added to that. And so that would be cost specific to cleaning up a property, doing lead and asbestos remediation and abatement, site demolition, site preparation, and public infrastructure improvements. And so these would apply to new construction and rehab of existing buildings, but those properties do have to qualify, and there's a few ways that they can qualify. The most common that we've seen locally would be functional obsolescence, and then what we call a facility, and that would be a contaminated property. And so those are the two most common, but they can also be blighted. It can be a land bank property. There's a few other examples as well. And then what's new is the housing TIF portion of it. And I got another slide here that I'll dive a little bit deeper into it, but this would also be for new construction or rehab of existing buildings. But the importance here is that it's meant to create new housing opportunities, new housing units within a community that would be income qualified, we would call attainable housing, that would be below the 120% of area median income. And so these ones, they could use the same activities that I described previously, the eligible costs, but they could also include the vertical construction costs of the housing development, and then gaps for financing, as well as rental gaps. And so just to give an overview of the brownfield housing TIF, this was a change back in 2023, to include the housing activities as part of the brownfield statute. And then we most recently saw that locally. We had a few come before you again in the last month or so. So we're seeing a lot of those we've had interest since the beginning of that, but some of those are now coming to fruition. And so this is through the Michigan State Housing Development Authority. They oversee the housing TIF portion of the brownfield statute. And so again, it's to create that attainable housing options. And then looking at that 120% of AMI, so what that means, in this next slide, I highlighted the income bands just for 80 to 120% AMI. And this is based on countywide, so this is all Ingham County numbers. This should be up to date for the April 2025 rental numbers. And so this shows you the income of individuals and families based on the household size that would fit within the band, as well as the rent by person. So, for example, for a single person renting to be in that 120%, they'd be making roughly $85,000 a year. And then on the lower end of that 80%, that's still looking at about $56,000 a year. And then rent by person, looking at the monthly rents, this would be an all-inclusive number. That 120%, you're looking at about $2,100 a month for the 120, and then for 80, it'd be about $1,400 a month. Now, to give that some context, again, this is Ingham County numbers, but in some recent census data for 2023, median incomes for the city of Lansing, the household income for the median income was $52,170, and then for an individual, looking at about $33,200. So you can see already right there what this is based on there's already a huge gap on what folks can afford in our community, and then making the rents viable for developers to develop. And so really that's what the tool is intended for, and something that we discussed thoroughly with developers as they're bringing this to us. Because if you calculate out that rental gap, it can be enormous, just because when the state, the legislature in Mishta was putting this together, they created a lot of flexibility in that, but really looking at what the need of the project is, making sure that, by using the tool, we're able to get those projects supported. They're able to have, leverage this to make it a viable project. And then on the next slide, just looking at the some examples of employees. These are mostly public. These are public employees, but looking at the city of Lansing, all employees average about 47,000, and that would fit within that 70% AMI. Lansing School District, looking at all employees, about 44,500. Again, about 70% income band for that, and then looking at a department analyst trainee for the state of Michigan, about 53,000, and that'd be 80,000. That'd be that income band. So just, again, to give some more context about the types of jobs within our community and where they would fall within the incomes for the housing. Then the next slide, just some quick hits on tax abatement programs. Some of these will sound familiar. Some of these won't, just because they're not as common. But we have the OPRA, the Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act, and so this is investment into existing commercial buildings that would have to be determined to be functionally obsolete by the city assessor. And so this is, again, freezing property taxes to help with the redevelopment of those properties. There's also a commercial rehab, the CRE. There's the industrial facilities. That one is for industrial properties. There's the new personal property tax exemption. That's the 328. We've done that somewhat recently, I believe, with the Consumers Project. And then there's some new ones here, the attainable housing and residential housing exemptions. We haven't utilized these yet, but these came into effect, I believe, last year. And this is for income qualified housing units. One of them is for below 4 units, one of them is for above 4 units. But with the use there, we've been able to use other tools. Those have been the way, more of the preferred way to go thus far. But I have answered a few questions on how to deploy those, and so you might see one of those come before you at some point here. And then the NEZ, this was recently done for the Prudent Wheel Lofts project. But that was the first time that has been updated, I think, in like 15 years. So that's, again, less common. And then just looking at a quick project example, throwing out a project that would be a mixed-use building, about $1.5 million in hard costs. Looking at the taxable value currently of that building being $100,000. Those taxable property taxes being $8,000 per year, and then after that, that being increased to about $40,000 per year. And so the next couple slides will help kind of visualize what the OPRA does, and then the brownfield, hopefully breaking that down. So I did both of these looking at the full number of years. OPRA can only go up to 12, so I did that for the maximum. And then the same for the brownfield, doing the 30, and then adding construction, and then post incentive on either end. So those are those additional, the C1, C2, and then P1, P2 numbers are. So the blue bar there would be the actual taxes paid by that owner, by that developer, and then the orange would be the tax savings, the taxes abated, and so that they would not pay. And so you can see it would reduce, it'd be frozen to that pre-development value, and then reduced for that term of the abatement. And then for the brownfield, looking at that, Similar setup here with the blue bar being the taxes paid, and then that reimbursement or rebate being in that orange color to show the amount that potentially reimbursed through that. And so that was modeled after our more common way of having brownfields with a pass-through, the amounts going to the brownfield revolving fund, as well as admin. So that's what the next table here shows, kind of a breakdown of those. And so with the brownfield, the taxes paid throughout the life of that plan would be about 1.75, 1.76 million. With no project, you'd be looking at about 380,000. There'd be that 1.2 that'd be captured with the brownfield, and then just showing kind of a breakdown there, about $1 million to the developer to reimburse for those costs. We have the LBRF, our revolving fund, and admin costs throughout the term of that plan, as well as the state brownfield revolving fund for the number of years that that's effective. And then looking at net tax revenue of any of the pass-through and then the base, you'd be looking at about 544,000 for a brownfield, and you'd stay at that 380,000 roughly if there was no project and the property just remained and grew at the normal like 2.5% is the standard that we use for annual growth. And then it just breaks down there where that would come through the new taxes through pass-through. And then there's also the non-capturable amounts. So a brownfield does not capture debt, so that would include not capturing on the public safety millage, not capturing on any school debt millages. All right. Any questions thus far?
Any questions from council?
All right.
Looks like we're going to keep rolling.
Yeah, all right. And so really quickly here, just wanted to provide some information on our brownfield plan policy. Again, this was approved by the LBRA board in July and went into effect that same day. And so this just kind of codifies a lot of our efforts, the board's intentions, and helps create a uniform process. So some of the highlights here: really encouraging public infrastructure improvements as part of every brownfield plan, promotes investment in identified development areas and districts, and then supports emerging developers, as well as it limits the program eligibility if the project doesn't meet the development priorities of the city, of the Brownfield Authority and others. And then this provides that transparency and clarification and consistency to the development community by laying out the steps and how each brownfield plan is considered, and then helps align each development with local development priorities and needs. And so on the next slide, looking at the requirements of all proposed brownfield plans, we'd be looking for them to align with the policy itself, but also local planning documents. So looking at the city's comprehensive plan, the regional housing needs assessment, sustainability plan, and so on. So it's important that the work has been done on those plans, the community input has been gathered on those plans, and that we utilize those to help drive what kind of projects that we're promoting, and especially what kind of projects that we're incentivizing. And so number two, they would, of course, have to qualify under state law and under the statute to receive the brownfield. And then they have to demonstrate a financial gap as part of their request. And then, again, including significant public infrastructure improvements. So on the next slide, just breaking down, again, some of that variance criteria. I had outlined on the first part of this, but so first of those would be projects by emerging developers. So you saw that previously with the 820 West Miller project that came before you. And so supporting Melissa and James on their development, that's the kind of investment that we like to see and like to promote. And so folks that are new to development would be able to see a variance under the brownfield plan policy and request a larger proportion of that go towards reimbursing them for their costs. And then, as I mentioned, some of those already identified areas, leveraging those to really promote investment. So that would include areas in our downtown, including the TIFA and PSD, as well as areas throughout the city along those vital corridors that we have that the council has established through the corridor improvement authorities. And then looking at targeted redevelopment areas, and this allows us to be flexible and as things change, and we add on new areas to target, but that would be the designated neighborhoods of focus, opportunity zones, the Rio Town, as well as publicly owned parcels that were part of an RFP process to promote development. So it covers a large proportion of the city, but again, making sure that we're getting investment in those areas in which focus has already been identified and prioritized. And then the last one here is requests for any the EGLE eligible activities. So this would be the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. So those would be the contamination issues. So making sure for public health reasons that we're promoting any project that would be cleaning up any contamination that be found. And then the chart here just shows what our old policy was versus the new policy with a variance and the new policy with no variance. So as you can see, what this does is make it much more flexible for projects that fall within those variance criteria and are hitting on all the priorities that we want to see as the LBRA and hopefully as the city and the city council, all the types of projects that we want to see. So really promoting those, making this a much more flexible program for developers. But then, if it doesn't meet all of those variance criteria, that would be reduced, for potential use of the program. And that concludes the presentation.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Chris? Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you for the presentation. Just quickly, you named all of the benefits and importances and reasons, and I have seemed to agree most always and supported them for the tool that they are. But could you also, in a quick version, give us the pitfalls, concerns, and downsides of either or as it relates to the city's interests in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we've gotten a lot better at reviewing up front on a project-by-project basis, looking at their financial gap, for instance. So that's something that we've focused on more in recent years, looking at how much incentive is needed, if it's needed. I think there's always that challenge of, there's always going to be risk. Things change constantly. I mean, we're talking about projecting 30 years out into the future. So there's always, trying to find that balance where we're being realistic. We could have another recession, within the next 30 years, right? Which would change property values, which, could reduce potential capture. That would all affect the financing of these projects, further into the future. But looking at all those variables, but really making sure that we're right-sizing incentives. And I know a lot of the projects that we bring before the LBRA board and before council are 30 years. And that's, looking at the need over that term, determining that, the full amount of the years has been needed. But I think there's always that, looking at trying to project that out. Getting the right financial information. But that's just something we've been baking into our process. It's part of the required documents under our policy now. It hasn't been. Developers have been providing that information, but making sure that's part of the expectation up front. So that's been a big part of it, and hoping to alleviate some of the over incentivizing. But I think these tools are needed to keep us competitive, and especially to promote the type of development that we want to see. So I'd hope that there's there's much more positives in the use of them, I believe, than the negatives. I know that doesn't fully answer your question.
No, I just wanted to hear it since you're really smart and you guys think about these things, just so everybody else hears it. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Do we have any other questions for Chris? Councilmember Hussein.
So you touched on a little bit, but the the plans approved by this body, obviously result in typically some type of pass through to the revolving fund. Can you talk a little bit about our local revolving fund? What types of projects might be funded out of that, or what are some things that might be eligible in terms of being funded, and then how we make those determinations in terms of what to fund?
Yes. So some recent examples, actually, at our last Brownfield meeting, it was approved for the 820 West Miller project, as well as the East Michigan rehabilitation project at the former Mission buildings, doing accelerated reimbursement loans. So instead of waiting the full term of those plans to reimburse a developer, being able to leverage the revolving fund, loan those dollars up front to the developer to get those dollars as close to the beginning as possible so they don't have to carry that debt for the term of the brownfield, and then using that capture to reimburse the revolving fund. So doing those loans, that's one of the more common ways that we help projects. We also help with some of the pre-development costs, so we're able to pay for environmental assessments up front. We are creating more defined criteria because there's more need, and we want to make sure that we're being consistent in how do we deploy those dollars. But looking at very similar criteria to what we have within the policy, if we have emerging developers, if these are priority projects or in priority areas, helping with those assessment costs up front, because those can range from a few $1,000s to tens of thousands of dollars or higher. So helping defray some of that cost up front, that's probably the most common way that we use that. At least as far as number of times, we probably do a dozen or more of those a year. And then with the loans, we deploy that. It seems to go in spurts, but we have a few this year. We've done them, one or two every year out of the fund. So yeah, we're looking at more and more creative ways of deploying those dollars and supporting projects. But yeah, so hopefully that helps.
When it comes to residential, and I think you likened different programs that are provided through statute as coupons and rebates, right? So we have a couple now, right? And I think one of each variety, actually, with the neighborhood enterprise zone maybe being the coupon of sorts, and maybe the amendment to the brownfield being the rebate piece, right? We have long struggled, and I hate to ask a site-specific question, but I'm going to because it's critical. We've long struggled to really market and then bring in some type of redevelopment for the old Life O'Reilly site. And I know that we had marketed that site. We put an RFP out there. We talked about NEZs. Have we since we've seen the amendment to the brownfield statute? Have we seen any additional interest in that particular property? And what are we doing right now, since we do have a new tool in the toolbox, to try to incentivize some type of development at that property?
Yeah. So there have been additional conversations with folks. We get, that's honestly, as far as like city-owned properties or ones that we've RFP'd, that's probably the one that we get most interest on. And so hopefully there'll be, some projects discussed here soon. But we have talked recently with ranging from emerging developer to some established developers on some possibilities there. I don't want to speak too deeply into that because nothing's solidified quite yet, but this tool, the housing TIF, is a big part of that. And so since that was approved, we've seen a spike in how that can be utilized, especially for a site that size, and the infrastructure that would be needed, because anything that's there is not usable, and you basically just have to start all the way back at the street. And so that's something that on private property, previously the brownfield statute didn't allow for that. So now with the housing TIF, it allows for that, plus the vertical construction. So that will hopefully make that redevelopment of that property more viable. So.
Sorry, and then one additional one. I certainly appreciate that, and I know folks in South Lansing appreciate that. But a lot of times when we're vetting, whether it's an Oprah, whether it's a brownfield, whether it's whatever it is, we'll have a lot of folks, and rightfully so, right? People should be critical of these things and make sure that we're thinking about these things. But a lot of times people basically challenge this promise made, versus this promise kept. And so, as an example, we might hear at the podium something like, this is great. You guys are going to approve this. I mean, there's all these promises being made, but there's no guarantee, right, that the jobs expected come to fruition or the investment comes to fruition. Or can you talk a little bit about what would a project is completed, but what would almost disqualify a developer from actually receiving the incentive that we approved? So do they have to fulfill the jobs expected? Do they have to fulfill the investment piece? Do they have to fulfill the public infrastructure project or improvements? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in many ways, they, depending on the tool, but they can be kind of self-regulating. So if they invest less, there'll be less taxable value. If they don't, do all of the improvement, there'll be less taxable value, so less benefit. So it controls a little bit that way, but specifically about rescinding incentives. I mean, this body's done that previously, or if developments haven't come to fruition, they basically just kind of die on the vine, like you let the brownfield go, but there's no capture, things of that sort. Hoping another development will come in and get amendment, just like we saw with the Homes in Pleasant Grove project. So to that point, really like the brownfield plan, the brownfield statute, it requires them to complete the project that is described. And it's, I would say, substantially complete because there's going to be some variations. But and then the UDA, the Universal Development Agreement, is another big part of that. And so that would be having the developer put forth their commitments, and I would say that'd be the driving document as far as amount of investment and jobs that'd be associated with a specific development. We don't necessarily it's not great to have to rescind an abatement or a brownfield that has been done. Most of the time, it's really just time. There might be a delay, right? And so some of those incentives, if they don't occur within a certain amount of time, then they almost automatically revert, or we have to rescind them in order to have the opportunity to come and bring them back forth even if it's a very similar project. So usually it's just a time factor. Try to be as flexible as possible. We had a few developments that, due to COVID, they're slower to bring on more jobs that they had initially promised. So it's, you want to giving that best good faith effort to complete the project as described, understanding that there's going to be some of those nuances and things, but those would be the driving documents, and we do review that at the completion, throughout the construction of the project, and then at completion, and report that to the city as far as what the developers reported out for investment and jobs. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, and then lastly, I just say congratulations on the new gig. I think it's well deserved.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for Chris at this time? Seeing no takers, we appreciate you being here. Congratulations on your new role with LEDC, and we look forward to working with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, and happy to come down anytime.
Thank you, sir. All right. Next up, we're going to have item F. It's an update on the Ovation Center. I see Dominic Cochran headed this way and Emily Linden. I took my glasses off. Yes, it certainly is. Thank you both for being here tonight. Green light should be on, and the floor is yours when you're ready.
I, of all people, should have no problem with that. Yeah, really appreciate the invitation. I know it was kind of sparked by some news items and the tariff environment, but I think I said in my response that I think we were overdue anyway. So it's good to be here. Clicker. Cool. I do have a brief presentation. It's not as info dense as Mr. Klein's was, so it's I'll email it out right after, of course. Mostly some bullet points and some photos. So in the news item that was referring to tariffs and the uncertainty surrounding the high tariff environment, it was mentioned that the project could be in jeopardy. I just want to mention that all of that was kind of known. We were obviously reacting immediately as soon as we were hearing it. We've got experts on the team. I do want to say thank you to Emily Linden, CFO of the project, and we do have folks from Dymaxion Development and Freund Associates, who is our construction management firm. We're in good hands with the team. So it was communicated very clearly through that whole thing. Talking to actual bidders and tradespeople, all the people from the different divisions about how it was going to impact us. It did not jeopardize the project, but it's, yeah, go ahead.
Just one second.
One moment. We're actually having some technical difficulties with our switching system. I just went really buggy for a moment. I need to actually reboot it so that way we have some visuals on the screen.
Cool. Okay.
Just wanted to let you know about that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, Dominic.
Yeah, no worries. So, yeah, I mean, I think I can kind of expand a little bit on that, how we got here. So certainly became a major part of the conversation. Didn't jeopardize the project, but impacted it. It was, in terms of how it's going to impact the budget, we have a couple different ways to react to that, both of which are getting us on track. I think we are on track currently. Number one, I think you know I've said every time I've been here, we have our foot on the gas for fundraising continually. A good chunk of our time each week is spent out there in the community, garnering more support for the project. Excitement is high. One really cool thing that I'm happy to report that I kind of wish I would have thought of earlier because we're having a lot of success with it. We've built something really special with the Lansing Public Media Center. That's been around for almost 15 years now. Been at 2 different temporary locations. 2500 South Washington was always supposed to be temporary. Fast forward being there for 10 years. Now we're in, I don't know if any of you had a chance to come by, but we have a really great temporary space in the North Capitol ramp. It's the old Gibson's bookstore space. Got really cool setup over there, and it's a true community resource. And it really is the thing that makes this project the most unique. If you look at concert venues in any city, I've only turned up one that has any kind of like educational or like daytime kind of like component intertwined with it. It's actually in Grand Rapids, the Wealthy Theater. So it's kind of cool that it's in Michigan too. They operate their community media center facility out of there too. Are we back up yet or? Okay, cool.
Yes.
I was vamping a little bit. But so anyway, we got a couple different ways we could react to that. Fundraising. We never stopped doing that. In fact, I was really hoping I would be able to talk about it tonight. We have a few warm leads, partnerships totaling over $1.5 million that we're hoping to announce very soon. We're also hoping to not need that for construction, and we are working hard on just working exactly with the budget we have, because we can always enhance the project. There's the list of potential enhancements is limitless, as you can imagine. The other thing that I think is already going to get us back on track before totally removing fundraising from the picture is transitioning to design-build methodology. So I think we can go ahead and go to the slides, Faith. Do I need to push to get it started?
I think it's up there.
Oh, can you go back? Okay. Great. And I said I would be, of all people, I should be able to operate this smoothly. So design build methodology. This is a different approach. It's got quite a few benefits. It's going to allow us to be like really streamlined in our approach. It's super collaborative. You know, when we talk about the subs, the professional people from the trades, the building trades and all the divisions, those people are the ones that know best how to save money, right? And to be smart. So when we go directly to them and we're more collaborative with them and say, how would you lay this out? You know, how would you help design this, and ask for that collaboration? I think it has a lot of benefits. Number one, it has benefits to the budget. Number two, I think it creates more of a collaborative team environment that's going to benefit the whole project. So that's going well so far. Streamlined communication. When we are talking about working with the same people in terms of design and construction, there's just less people that have to, less risk of a game of telephone occurring, right? So communication is more simple, it's more easy, it's faster, so we can react quicker when we have good ideas on how to save money. We can actually execute on those. Yeah, less risk of cost overruns because we're having that collaborative. All the variables are more known ahead of time. So we are. Okay, so between those two things, though, we are right back on track, and we are. This is what we've done so far. We've got. I'm sure if you've driven by, you've seen site demolition. Asphalt has been removed. We're ready to go in the ground with the geopier foundations as soon as we get our plan review done. For that portion of the project, the 520 plan review, the existing building that will be renovated into the media center and the offices for the Ovation, that plan review is just a matter of a few days away. And according to their estimates, we should be pretty close to that. The Lake Trust building, the existing headquarters, had like an apron, a canopy that, of course, if you went to the drive-through, if you were a Lake Trust customer, that canopy that you drive under, that was kind of a win-win. It took some time to negotiate, but that was going to benefit our project if that canopy was removed and new asphalt was installed there for shipping and deliveries and having equipment dropped off at the facility. So it was something that we wanted, even though it was their property. But I also think you'll agree, if you've looked at that part of it, it's actually more aesthetically pleasing just in general to have that canopy gone, since it's an apartment building now. It's no longer a bank. I think it's actually an improvement. So that was kind of a win-win that we negotiated with those property owners. And then that work was actually accomplished. We have a brand new roof on the 520 building. That looks great. I've got some pictures of that I'll be getting to. Temp power installation. There was actually zero power to that building. It was literally, you could see the mast where the power was connected was just completely severed. So we had to get that all installed. And of course, we were wanting to be smart about that too, because we knew that the actual build out would commence soon enough where it made sense to make that feed what will eventually become the permanent feed, right? So we didn't only do temporary and then have to switch it all over to permanent. So we were trying to be streamlined in that operation as well. We've been coordinating with public service, which they've been really great to work with. The storm sewer work on Lenawee, over on that side with the Lake Trust building, the east-west street there, that needed some storm sewer work. That potentially the Ovation project was going to contribute to runoff that would lead to that, but also the fact that they can get that work done now is going to future-proof future development in that area, so the street won't have to get torn up again. I know we're always trying to look for ways to, when the street's open, get as much done as you can so you don't have to go back through and do it all over again. So that was a really great win-win there as well. We're completed. Yeah, site plan approval received from EDP. Soil erosion measures are in place. And of course, the value engineering and design modifications. That's the other way that we're getting back on the budget, is actually making changes to the design that will not impact the aesthetics, right? So it's really important that we want to build something of actual real architectural and cultural significance with this building. So we could build a building that it is affordable, but maybe wouldn't be the best result. So that's a balance that's really important to me, and I know the team all feels that, which is great. So there's never any pushback on that. That everybody understands that this is a really important project for our community. So what's next? We've got the plan review approvals that I mentioned, 520 coming within a few days and 500 behind that. We'll be commencing that build out of 520. Rough MEP and petitioning the office areas, partitioning. We'll have our RFP issuances and contract buyouts. Got some long lead items like elevators and electrical gear that will get ordered right away as soon as we can, so we aren't waiting on those things at the end. Getting those GeoPure foundations designed and installed. Structural fabrication, of course, that's the exciting part, getting some cranes on the site and seeing steel go up. And of course, continued coordination with everybody that we're working with. This might be tough to see. Like I said, I'll email it right away, but this is the construction schedule for 520, showing a Q1 of 2026 delivery for that portion of the project, which is awesome. That means we're going to be in there working at the media center. Me and Emily will be there right on the site in 7 months. So that's going to feel really great to literally be working out of that building. Finally, having the Lansing Public Media Center have a permanent home is really exciting for that whole staff, I know, and me as well, because like I said, that's something we started 15 years ago. So to finally have a permanent home will really feel good. So we'll be in there Q1 of 2026, and then about a year later, probably late Q1 of 2027 is when we're targeting for the opening of the Ovation. Got some photos. I'll go through this real quick. So here's this one. You can see the second photo. Faith is that's that canopy area that we kind of collaborated with those property owners on, removing that canopy and getting that ready. That's going to really help us for our logistics on site when we have the trucks coming in with loading and gear. Next slide. See the new roof going up on the 520. That's really nice to see that. They did a great job on that roof. Next slide. We did have cranes in the air for one day. Unfortunately, it was just one day, but we had to get the curb up on the roof. But it was a pretty exciting moment, of course, to see the cranes. And that's, looking inside now, you can see there was a little bit of water getting in there. But man, I think I mentioned it one of the times I came before. We were so excited when we went down in the basement of that building. I think we all had really low expectations for being able to truly utilize that whole level of the building. But it's like 12-foot ceilings down there. That's where we're going to build our music recording studios, our podcast recording studios. It's all, and it's like the floor plan, and you can't move any of those walls around because they're all load bearing. But it just, the way they're all laid out is actually kind of perfect for what we need. It's really close to like how we would have designed it. So that was a really fortunate thing. So we're super excited to be up and running in there in about 7 months. There you can see we didn't just go with a super temporary construction power. We wanted to actually get a real panel in there. Keep going. Yeah, that's a better view of that bank canopy once we got it off. And wrapping up here, fundraising, like I said, continues to go well. Targeting like some funding for the Lansing Public Media Center has been very successful, as I mentioned, so super excited about that. Now that we've doing this new design build approach, we are getting our bids back, and they are trending back on budget, and some even slightly below, which is awesome to see. We're going to be out in the community. You'll see us at Dam Jam coming up next month, Hispanic Heritage Weekend. You might have seen us at Juneteenth, and we'll be out there in the community because now we'll have a hard opening date that we want to get people excited. And then, of course, we're looking forward to actually working out of that building right on the construction site. It'll be a noisy year while we're there, but it'll be fun. And then, of course, the North Star, right? This is what we're looking at, the annual economic impact of this project. Not to mention the intangibles like the cultural impact and talent retention. That's an argument when we're fundraising. The people that are potentially wanting to support the project have real talent retention issues. So when we show them that we're going to have this kind of amenity that the people expect and they want to have in the city they live in, they're very excited and they respond well to that argument. And that's it.
Okay. Do we have questions? Councilmember Garza.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, you guys. Appreciate you being here and giving us a heads up of what's been going on. I think a lot of people have been wondering.
Yeah.
So thanks for providing us with that. How much money have you guys raised to date?
So that which is accretive to the so our construction budget is and remains 28 million. We haven't increased that. But then when you add,
Naming rights right now is about at 2.585 million, but we're still fundraising, so.
yeah, and like I think that it's about 1.5 that we're pretty close to locking in, and then a lot of other leads too. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And did when I was looking at your screen earlier, did you guys say you're going to be completed by March of next year? Is that what I read?
So the 520 project, where the offices will be Q1 of 26. Yep. So March of 26, and then the main venue will be late Q1 of 27.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I guess March is late Q1.
I've got Councilmember Hussein.
Yeah, just one quick question. It looks like you've done a lot of work since you last reported to this body. But our last spend to date report was, I think, December of 2024. Do we know what we have actually spent up to this point?
Yep, total spend to date so far, 2.328 million. And the vast majority of that is on our architecture and construction manager at this point. But I'm happy to send a new spend to date report if council would like that. I can do it tomorrow.
Yes, please.
Will do.
Councilmember Pelivanoglou.
Thank you, President Cost. Thank you so much for being here with us this evening. I was looking forward to this update. When you said that you're utilizing design build methodology, I'm a lean process practitioner, and so that all made sense to me. And if folks don't completely understand what that means, it means that all of the moving parts are talking to each other constantly as you're moving through this project. So it really does build that collaboration you're talking about. You're able to, while it's not easy, pivot a bit more easily if you need to. Maybe go to your plan B in a more seamless fashion. And so I really applaud you for using that methodology on this project. I'm not sure how many other projects this has been utilized on recently, but I do applaud that. And then as far as the fundraising efforts, I think it's great that you continue to fundraise and pursue those dollars, as we've heard with a variety of different issues and projects. In the event that you may need another $1 million, it sounds like you are well positioned, and you're continually looking to see how you can increase that amount if and when it's needed. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? Councilmember Hussein.
I don't know how germane this is, but because you mentioned the dam jam, and I'm super excited about the fact that we have these different, when you talk about venues and you talk about capacity, right, with what we're doing over at the Brunky Fish Ladder, obviously with Great Wall Hall and now the Ovation, I really think we're creating a destination for performance. You said something about the dam jam. That's not going to be ready for the dam jam, is it? Do we have a location for the dam jam?
I don't know. I'm not the person.
Yeah,
That's a great question.
I just didn't know.
I know. I heard that myself, that it might not be ready in time, but I do know there is a plan B. I just don't know what it is.
You don't know what it is?
Yeah. So I apologize.
Nobody seems to know what it is.
Okay. I just heard about it yesterday that it might not be finished.
All right.
Just real quick though, if you don't mind, you just inspired me to mention an anecdote that was really cool. In Milwaukee at the NEVA National Independent Venue Association conference, ran into a talent agent from Wasserman, I believe, it was a promoter. Sorry, I talked to a lot of people at those places. They're all excited. This is essentially a brand new market for them, right? So, and it's kind of all of a sudden. So this guy, when he saw my badge and saw I was from Lansing, Michigan, he's like, is there some sort of 10-year master plan for you guys rolling out all these concert venues they're all perfectly sized to go together? And I was like, no, I wish I could say there was. There's not, because he had just seen the MSU announcement about the arena, which we got a bunch of calls about. They're whoa, are you sure this isn't going to be? And I was like, that is literally the next size up. 6,000 person arena is usually the jump from a 2,000 person kind of clubbish venue like we're talking about for the Ovation to an arena. These are all different level artists that are going to be coming through. And if you look at their use cases, concerts for them is kind of last on the list. So if we, 5, 6, 7, 8 concerts a year from them is only going to help. the overall kind of concert scene. So they knew about Gray Wall Hall, and they just thought it's just kind of cool to see that from afar, that people are watching and they're excited to start booking concerts. So it really that was awesome.
All right, I'll ask quickly. In the brownfield, this project was going to be done October of 2025. So when we say late first quarter of 2027, is that a realistic number?
It's currently realistic, but I will definitely keep you posted. Like I said in my response, I think we had talked about doing quarterly updates, and we all think we all realized together it had been like 5 months or something. So it's very much realistic. That's Nick Freund is here from Freund Associates. I haven't met anybody who's more excited to get in the ground than these guys. They're like really chomping at the bit, and I know they can work fast. So we vetted them and talked to previous clients that they've worked with, and that's one of their main attributes is being able to work fast. But I'm not going to sit here and say there can't be things that come up. So what I can say is I'll keep you posted.
Thank you. And then the presentation we have from January of 27, if you could send over, it looks like on the, what we just got, your presentation that you did, it looks like a different design from the new design unveiled that we're looking at from the previous update.
Yeah, like the cantilevered roof that goes way out as opposed to, yeah. So those were some of the things that, again, with the overarching goal of keeping the aesthetics, keeping the vibe, right, for lack of a better word. That is the kind of venue where I can use that word, vibe. Instead of getting rid of the glass and going to like a facade that's way less expensive, these are the compromises that we made. So like the cantilever was really expensive, and when we look at weighing that against something that's going to impact the audience experience, we have to choose that.
So yeah, if you have renditions, can you send them forward?
I'll include it with the presentation.
Thank you so much. Vice President Carter.
Thank you for the presentation today. I just wanted to get clarification. You said with the fundraising efforts, there was a few warm leads, close to 1.5 million. Is that going to be sufficient to solidify your fundraising needs? Because I know Ms. Linden back in January stated that the fundraising is just to have that safety net. So would that satisfy, or would you still be looking to do additional fundraising?
So our goal is to apply that fundraising toward enhancements and financial stability for the project once it's open. But it's also a tool that we can use to get the budget in the right place, right? So our goal is still, I think it's always been, we would like to raise $5 million in additional funds. So we'll at least go until we can do that. And I think also once we do actually have the cranes in the air for more than one day and people can, I'll be the first to tell you that any frustration and skepticism is completely founded. And I will take all the time in the world to have all those conversations with any individual to show and demonstrate that nobody's dragging their heels, right? So totally understand it. But so that will be an additional tool we can use. If we raise our $5 million and we need to use $1 million of that to add to the construction budget, that's not going to hurt our future financial plans because that goal was already overshooting what we needed, if that makes sense. Like the goal is always to raise more than what we needed.
No, it does. It makes sense. And thank you for also sending the presentation. I'll be curious to see this rendition versus the one that was presented even back in early 2024 as well. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, we'll thank both of you for being here tonight and look forward to the items we asked for.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. We are adjourned at 7. 15 minutes, folks.